If you can't stand Karen, subscribe, like, and drop a comment telling me what country or city you're watching from. I'd love to know where all the Karen haters are at. Now pull up a chair because I'm about to tell you how one overgrown inflatable dragon nearly landed me in county jail and how an HOA president named Carol Ann Weatherby tried to turn my favorite season into an all-out war. See, in my family, Halloween isn't just a holiday, it's a full-blown tradition. The first Saturday in October is basically the Super Bowl, Christmas, and 4th of July, all rolled up with cobwebs and pumpkin lights. My wife Simone is the queen of cozy, spooky. Our boy Leo, just 10, is the pumpkin prince. And me, I'm Marcus, the engineer behind our yearly haunted yard extravaganza. We'd moved into Maple Creek Estates about 6 months before Nice Enough Place, but honestly a little too beige for my taste. Still, the yard was big. The neighbors seemed quiet, and I figured what could go wrong. That morning we were all in matching pajamas, skeletons, candy corn, little cartoon ghosts, sipping cider and plotting out the best Halloween display this side of Main Street. But the crown jewel, the thing Leo had picked himself, was Sparky, a 12-foot bright green inflatable dragon with glowing red eyes and wings that flapped just enough to look real. We set up the tombstones, strung the purple bat lights, and started staking Sparky into place. The air was crisp, the sky golden, the cider sweet. And yeah, you could feel pure happiness just hanging over our lawn. Then that shadow showed up. You ever feel someone's disapproval before you even see their face? That's what happened. I looked up and there she was, Carol Ann, standing on the sidewalk like she'd rather walk on hot coals than step on my grass. Stout hair shellacked into an immovable helmet, black blazer and slacks clipboard in hand, lips pinched, eyes flicking across my handiwork like she was grading a health inspection. "Excuse me," she croaked like gravel in a coffee can. "I am Carol Ann Weatherby, president of the HOA." She said president the way some folks say FBI. I tried to play it neighborly, introduce myself and my family, but she ignored my hand and zeroed in on Sparky behind me. "Mr. Robinson, are you aware of the Maple Creek Estates covenants and bylaws regarding seasonal decorations?" she asked, all business. I said I'd glanced at the packet, something about no cars on the lawn, but nothing about dragons. She didn't even crack a smile. Tap, tap went her perfectly manicured finger. Section 9, subsection C, paragraph 4, she recited, eyes never leaving her clipboard. Seasonal displays may not be erected more than 14 days before the holiday. Today is October 5th. Halloween is October 31st. You are 12 days in violation. I looked at Leo, who shrank behind Simone. I looked at our decorations, at the happiness we'd built that morning. Just like that, the joy drained out of everything. Simone stepped in, voice sweet enough to rot your teeth. "Carol Ann, we're just having some family fun. The neighborhood kids love this stuff. It's not hurting anyone." But Carol Ann, oh, she was unbothered. "Rules are to be followed," she snapped. "A 12-foot creature is not part of the Maple Creek aesthetic." I laughed. I couldn't help it. Maple Creek aesthetic. Every house on this street is beige. Sparky's the only bit of color. That did it. Her lips disappeared, her eyes narrowed, and she said, "This is a formal warning. You have 24 hours to remove all non-compliant decorations or you'll receive a citation and a $100 fine." So that's how my Saturday got torched by a woman with a clipboard and a power complex. We tried to shake it off, told Leo we weren't in trouble, promised him Sparky was staying put. But the mood was shot. Every time I hammered a stake, I expected to see that helmet of hair peeking around a bush. Even pizza in a goofy monster movie couldn't restore the vibe. Simone tried to make it fun, but you could tell we were all just waiting for the other shoe to drop. That night, from our living room, I watched as Carol Ann stood at her window, snapping pictures of our house. It felt like we'd been put on trial for the crime of loving Halloween. Leo, bless his heart, said, "Dad, maybe she's just sad because she doesn't have a dragon." Sweet kid still thought this was about decorations. Next morning, the deadline was ticking like a bomb. Sparky looked a little sad and droopy from the cold, but he was still there, and so were we. Simone hugged me in the kitchen. "What do you think she'll do?" she whispered. "Just drop a fine in the mailbox." I shrugged. With that one, I doubt it's that simple. We spent the day inside Leo, too nervous to play out front while I dug into state HOA laws and horror stories online. Turned out HOAs have power, but even they can't be arbitrary. If you enforce a rule, you have to enforce it on everyone. So we wrote a formal response letter refusing to pay the fine and promising to show up at the next HOA meeting if necessary. A tiny victory until noon when Carol Ann came out phone in hand documenting every angle of our crime scene. Soon after, an official-looking letter landed under our door. $100 fine plus $50 per day if we didn't comply. That's when anger took over. But before I could even strategize a new twist, showed up a guy in a suit meeting with Carol Ann on her porch, scribbling notes and pointing at her house. Simone, watching with me, said, "Is that a lawyer?" My stomach dropped. Now we weren't just that family with the dragon, we were a legal problem. The week turned into psychological warfare. Daily fine notices, cold shoulders, neighbors sneaking sympathetic smiles but not wanting to get involved. Leo stopped playing in the yard. Simone and I were tense. Even the dog seemed anxious. Carol Ann wanted us gone, or at least broken. Friday night we tried to ignore the drama, ordered pizza, put on a movie for Leo. But halfway through, those red and blue lights swept across our wall. 2 police cars, silent but flashing, parked right outside. I told Simone to take Leo upstairs. My heart was pounding out of my chest. I opened the door. There stood 2 officers, one older, one younger, both looking more tired than angry. "Evening, sir," said the older one. "We got a call about a disturbance, yelling possible weapon." My mind blanked. Weapon. The only thing I'd brandished was a plastic scythe for the Grim Reaper skeleton. The younger officer's hand hovered near his holster. I took a breath, explained everything. Halloween decorations, HOA. Threats, 0, yelling, 0 weapons. Just a plastic prop and one very unhappy neighbor. "They checked the scythe, officer." Chin tapped it, shook his head, looked at his partner. The tension eased. The older officer, Miller, radioed dispatch. "Civil matter, no disturbance, code 4. Then he crossed the street and gave Carol Ann the kind of lecture you know he'd been waiting to deliver all week. Back on my porch, he apologized. "Sir, I'm sorry for the trouble, and for what it's worth," he added, glancing at Sparky, "I like the dragon." That almost broke me, relief, anger, exhaustion all mixed together. Inside, Simone was furious. "She told them you had a weapon," she whispered, shaking. "She could have gotten you killed, Marcus. Over a plastic skeleton and some bats." She was right, and we both knew exactly what story Carol Ann was trying to tell. "How's Leo?" I asked. I told him the police loved our decorations. Simone said, a sad little smile on her lips. The next morning, as I stood in the kitchen, I saw Mr. Gable, older guy from 2 doors down, walking his dog. He changed direction, walked right up my driveway. "Mr. Robinson," he said, "just wanted to make sure you and your family are all right. We saw the lights last night." That kindness almost did me in. He leaned in, dropped his voice. "Don't pay her any mind. You're not the first family she's bullied. You're just the first who didn't roll over." And then, one by one, he told me stories the family forced to repaint their door, the couple fined over a plastic slide the man cited for a garden hose left out. That evening, Simone and I walked to the Gables house for an impromptu meeting. 15 neighbors squeezed into the living room, trading stories, sharing tea, shaking hands. For the first time since all this started, we didn't feel alone. George, the lawyer, stood up and said, "What if we use the bylaws against her audit, her property for every infraction?" The mood shifted. What began as fear turned into a spark of rebellion. Operation Beige Watch was born. For a week, we documented every tiny rule violation at Carol Ann's house and her cronies' trash cans, out too early weeds in the flower bed, cracked driveway, you name it. We created a photo album online. Simone found a loophole. The bylaws only mention lawn decorations, not window displays. So we spread the word on the 12th, 3 days before decorations were legal. Everyone put up window displays. Ghosts, pumpkins, bats, messages of solidarity everywhere. That Saturday, Carol Ann came out, saw her kingdom of beige transformed into a riot of color, every window, every house. She flipped through her binder, searching for a rule to stop us. But she was beaten at her own game, and for the first time, she looked small. With photo signatures and a formal petition, we called a special HOA meeting for a vote of no confidence. The clubhouse was packed. Caroline tried to control the room, but George stood up, laid out the evidence, and then it was my turn. I spoke from the heart about being targeted, about my son's fear, about the difference between rules for safety and rules for control. The vote was nearly unanimous. Carol Ann and her cronies were out replaced by neighbors who wanted community, not tyranny. Halloween came, and our street was the most festive, joyful, welcoming place I'd ever seen. Leo, dressed as a wizard, handed out candy with a smile as bright as any jack-o'-lantern. We'd stood our ground, and we'd won not just for us, but for everyone. You know, that's the real lesson. No matter how petty the tyrant, no matter how ridiculous the rule, a community that stands together can't be beaten by a clipboard and a bad attitude. So, if you've ever gone to battle with a Carol Ann, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? And what's your HOA horror story? Are you Team Dragon? Or do you secretly think Sparky had it coming? Hit subscribe and stick around, because the world's got no shortage of Karens. And trust me, we've got plenty more stories to tell.